Chapter 1. The Journey Begins. My name is Elena. I come from a quiet coastal town where the ocean breeze carries a scent of salt and adventure. I am 22 years old and have always been captivated by the stories my grandmother used to tell me. Her tales of distant islands, lost treasures, and courageous explorers made me dream of seeing the world. My family lives a simple life. My father is a fisherman, waking before dawn to cast his nets into the sea. My mother, a skilled weaver, creates intricate patterns in her fabrics, inspired by the waves and the stars. I have an older sister, Marina, who helps my mother with her craft. Marina is a practical one, always reminding me to keep my feet on the ground while my head is lost in the clouds. Life in our town is predictable. Mornings begin with the calls of seagulls. Afternoons are filled with the sounds of the bustling marketplace, and evenings are quiet, marked by the gentle crashing of waves against the shore. While others find comfort in this routine, I feel a longing for something more. Every evening, after finishing my chores, I sit by the cliffs overlooking the ocean. It is my favorite place in the world, a place where the horizon seems endless and my dreams feel closer. One evening, as the sun dips below the water, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I turn to Marina. Do you ever wonder what's out there? I ask, gesturing toward the horizon. Marina smiles softly. Sometimes, but I find peace here. The ocean is vast, Elena, and the world is unpredictable. Are you sure you're ready to leave the safety of what you know? Her question lingers in my mind as I walk home. Am I ready? The idea of stepping into the unknown fills me with both excitement and fear. But that night, as I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, I know the answer. I may not be ready, but I cannot stay. The next morning, I begin to prepare. I gather a few belongings, a notebook, a small pouch of coins, and a necklace my grandmother gave me, a delicate silver shell she said would bring me luck. My heart is heavy as I say goodbye to my family, but their support strengthens my resolve. Follow your dreams, Elena, my father says, his voice thick with emotion. Write to us, Marina adds, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. As I step onto the boat that will take me to the mainland, I feel a mix of emotions. The gentle sway of the ocean beneath me mirrors the uncertainty in my heart. I don't know where this journey will lead or what challenges await, but for the first time, I feel truly alive. The horizon no longer seems like a distant dream, it feels like a promise. Chapter 2. The First Step. The port of Elmsbridge was busier than anything Elena had ever seen. The shouts of vendors mixed with the hurried footsteps of sailors and travelers, creating a symphony of bustling life. Ships of all sizes lined the harbor, each seeming to carry hundreds of stories waiting to be told. As Elena stepped off the boat, her feet touched the ground of this new world for the first time. The salty air still lingered, but everything was unfamiliar: the faces, the languages, and even the way people greeted one another. She wandered into a marketplace brimming with life. Stalls displayed spices that filled the air with rich aromas, sparkling gemstones, and vibrant hand-painted artworks. Her attention was drawn to a small, tucked-away shop with a weathered sign that read, "Treasures of Time." Inside, an elderly man with a silver beard and bright eyes stood behind the counter. The shelves were filled with ancient trinkets, a rusted compass, cracked ceramic jars, and an old map encased in a wooden frame. "You must be new here," the man said in a warm, gravelly voice. "Yes, it's my first time away from home," Elena replied, her gaze fixed on the map. "What does this map lead to?" The old man smiled, his eyes twinkling. "It doesn't just lead to a place, it leads to a story. If you're interested, have a seat, and I'll tell you." Elena sat down eagerly. The man began to recount the tale of the treasure of the deep, a priceless artifact said to make any dream come true. But no one had ever found it, as those who embarked on the journey never returned. "Even so, I want to try," Elena said, her voice steady with determination. The old man studied her for a moment and nodded. "In that case, you need a ship and a crew you can trust." Elena thanked him and stepped back into the bustling street, her heart racing with excitement. She knew she had to find allies to begin this journey. Just as she was about to leave, a voice called out from behind her. "You're looking for treasure, aren't you? I can help." Chapter 3: The Mysterious Map. Elena turned to see a man in his late 30s leaning casually against a post. His tanned skin and weathered clothing spoke of years spent at sea. His sharp eyes glimmered with curiosity and a hint of mischief. "And why would you want to help me?" Elena asked, narrowing her eyes. "Because I've seen that map before," he replied, pointing to the shop she had just left. "It's not just a story, it's real. But it's also dangerous. You need someone who knows the waters." Elena hesitated. Could she trust this stranger? But his confidence and familiarity with the map intrigued her. "What's your name?" she asked. "Call me Finn," he said with a grin. "And you are?" "Elena." "Well, Elena, I know someone who can lend us a ship, but we'll need another person for this kind of journey." The duo made their way to a small tavern near the docks. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of ale and smoke. Finn approached a young woman sitting in the corner, scribbling in a notebook. Her round glasses and ink-stained fingers gave her an air of intellect. "This is Clara," Finn said, introducing her. She's a historian and knows more about ancient legends than anyone I've ever met. Clara looked up, adjusting her glasses. And why should I join you on this wild goose chase? Because, Finn said, pulling out a sketch of the map. This might be the greatest discovery of our time. Clara's eyes lit up as she studied the map. All right, she said after a pause. I'm in, but if we're doing this, we're doing it my way. No reckless stunts. Elena smiled, feeling her excitement grow. With Finn's experience and Clara's knowledge, she finally had the beginnings of a crew. Chapter 4: Unexpected Allies. The next morning, Elena, Finn, and Clara gathered at the docks to board the ship. The Stormbreaker, a sleek vessel with tall masts and billowing sails, was anchored at the farthest pier. It was a ship Finn had mentioned, and it had seen better days, but despite the wear and tear, Elena could sense that it had stories of its own to tell. As they approached, a tall man with a thick beard and a weathered coat waved at them. You must be Finn's crew, he said gruffly. I'm Captain Roderick. Welcome aboard. Roderick had the air of someone who had been through countless storms, both literal and metaphorical. He didn't ask questions, he just expected the crew to follow orders and work hard. Elena wasn't sure what to think of him yet, but she was glad they had a captain with such experience. Ready to set sail? Roderick asked. Not yet, Finn replied. We need one more thing, an expert in navigation. Finn's words surprised Elena. She thought they had everything they needed, but apparently there was still much to be done. There's someone I know, Clara spoke up. He's a map maker. His skills are unmatched, but he's difficult to work with. Where is he? Elena asked. He works on the northernmost island, Clara replied, but getting there won't be easy. With no other options, they agreed to head north. The ship set sail at dawn, and as the Stormbreaker sliced through the waves, Elena's heart swelled with excitement. They were finally on their way. Chapter 5: The Northern Island. The journey north was treacherous. The waters grew colder, and the skies darkened with storm clouds. The crew worked together seamlessly, but the tension was palpable. Finn had told stories of their destination, the northern island, but no one truly knew what to expect. After days at sea, the Stormbreaker finally approached the jagged cliffs of the island. The winds howled as they anchored at a small cove, and Elena could see the silhouette of a small cottage at the edge of the forest. That's where he lives, Clara said, her voice tight. But don't expect him to be friendly, Elena nodded, feeling a mix of anticipation and unease. The mapmaker they sought was known for his brilliance, but also his eccentricity. They made their way to the cottage. the path winding through dense trees. As they approached the door, Clara knocked. The sound echoed in the silence. A moment later, the door creaked open, revealing an older man with sharp features and piercing eyes. His clothes were tattered, and his hands were stained with ink. "I suppose you're here about the map," he said gruffly. "We need your help," Clara explained. "We are looking for the treasure of the deep." The man studied them for a long moment, then nodded. "Come in." Chapter 6: The Mapmaker's Secrets. Inside the cottage, the air was thick with the scent of parchment and old wood. Maps were scattered everywhere on the floor, the walls, and even the ceiling. The man, whose name was Alaric, led them to a large wooden table covered in scrolls and charts. "I'm not sure what you're looking for," Alaric said as he sifted through the papers. "This map is ancient. It's not just a treasure, it's a key to something much bigger." Elena leaned in closer, her curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" Alaric looked up at her, his eyes dark. "The treasure of the deep is said to be tied to an ancient civilization, a people who vanished long ago. Their knowledge was vast, and their power unimaginable. The treasure is a relic of that power. Whoever controls it could change the course of history." Elena's heart raced. This was no ordinary treasure hunt. They weren't just after gold or jewels, they were after something far more dangerous. "We'll need more than just a map," Clara said. "We'll need to understand their history, their language, their culture." Alaric nodded grimly. "I can help you with that, but be warned, many have tried to find it, and none have returned." Chapter 7: The First Trial. With Alaric's help, the team deciphered the map's cryptic symbols and began their journey to the first location, the ancient city of Lystra. It was a place lost to time, buried beneath the sands of a vast desert. As the Stormbreaker sailed across the open ocean, Elena could feel the weight of the journey pressing down on her. Each new discovery brought them closer to their goal, but also deeper into danger. When they arrived at Lystra's coastline, they found the city's ruins partially submerged in the sea, its stone structures crumbling under the weight of centuries. The air was thick with heat, and the sand shimmered like gold. "This is where the first trial begins," Finn said. "We need to find the hidden entrance to the city." The team worked together, carefully searching the ruins. After hours of exploration, they discovered an underground tunnel, sealed by ancient stones. Finn and Captain Roderick worked together to clear the entrance, revealing a dark passageway. They descended into the darkness, each step echoing in the silence. The walls were lined with symbols that seemed to shift as they moved, as if the city itself were alive. At the end of the passage, they found an intricately carved door. It was locked with a series of complex mechanisms. Clara studied the symbols and worked quickly to decipher them. "This is it," she said. "We found the key to the first trial." With a click, the door opened. Beyond it lay the first challenge, a vast chamber filled with traps and puzzles, each more dangerous than the last. Chapter 8: The Second Trial. The second trial was even more difficult. After surviving the chamber of traps, they reached the heart of Lystra, a massive hall with an altar at its center. On the altar lay a crystal orb, glowing faintly in the dim light. "This is the artifact we've been searching for," Finn said, his voice filled with awe. But as soon as Elena reached for the orb, the ground beneath them shook, and a deep rumbling sound filled the hall. The walls began to close in, and the air grew heavy with an unnatural heat. "We have to go!" Captain Roderick shouted. The team scrambled to escape the collapsing hall, narrowly avoiding falling debris and rising flames. As they emerged into the daylight, the city behind them crumbled into nothingness. "We're running out of time," Elena said breathlessly. "The treasure is close, but so is the danger." Chapter 9: The Hidden Kingdom. The third trial took them to a hidden kingdom in the mountains, a place no map had ever mentioned. The kingdom was said to be ruled by a mysterious figure, a woman who was both feared and revered. Elena, Finn, and Clara approached the kingdom's gates with caution. The guards were not human. They were strange, ethereal beings made of stone and light. "We seek the treasure of the deep," Elena called out. The stone beings stepped aside, allowing them to enter. Inside the kingdom, the air was thick with magic. The trees glowed softly, and the buildings were carved from the very rock of the mountains. They met the ruler, Queen Elena, a woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold the knowledge of the ages. "You are brave to come here," Queen Elena said, her voice soft but commanding. "But the treasure you seek is not meant for mortals. You must prove your worth before you can claim it." Elena nodded, ready to face whatever challenge awaited them. Chapter 10: The Final Trial. The final trial was the most dangerous of all. Queen Elena led Elena and her crew to a chamber deep within the kingdom. At its center was a pool of water, glowing with an eerie light. "This is a pool of souls," Queen Elena explained. "Only those who pass through its depths can unlock the secrets of the treasure of the deep." Elena stepped forward, feeling a strange pull toward the pool. She hesitated for a moment, then dove in. The world around her went dark, and she felt herself sinking deeper and deeper into the water. As she reached the bottom, she saw it, the treasure of the deep. It was not a chest of gold, but an ancient artifact, a key to untold knowledge and power. Elena reached for it, her fingers trembling. As she held the artifact in her hands, a voice echoed in her mind. Are you ready to change the world? Elena took a deep breath and nodded. She had come this far, and there was no turning back now. The journey was just beginning. Chapter 11: The Power of the Artifact. Elena surfaced from the pool, her body shaking from the depths of the experience. The treasure of the deep was now in her hands, its strange glow lighting up the chamber around her. The crew gathered around her, their eyes wide with awe and trepidation. What now? Finn asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena looked at the artifact, feeling a surge of energy flowing through her. The power it contained was unlike anything she had ever felt, ancient, untamed, and full of potential. Yet, it also felt dangerous, as though it could slip beyond her control at any moment. I don't know, Elena admitted, her voice shaking. But we need to understand what it is before we do anything with it. Queen Alina stepped forward, her expression solemn. The artifact is more than just a relic of power. It is a key to the lost knowledge of an ancient civilization. The people who created it were wise beyond measure, but they paid a terrible price for their ambition. If you seek to use its power, you must be prepared to face the consequences. Elena nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of what she was holding. The power to change the world also meant the power to destroy it if misused. She wasn't sure if she was ready for that responsibility, but she knew there was no turning back. Chapter 12: The Return. The journey back to the mainland was long and arduous. The crew sailed through treacherous waters, their minds preoccupied with the artifact and what it could mean for their future. Elena spent much of her time studying it, trying to decipher the strange symbols engraved upon its surface. As they approached the shore, a sense of unease settled over Elena. She had the artifact, but what would she do with it? And how would she protect it from those who would seek to use it for their own gain? We need to find a safe place to hide it, Clara suggested. There are too many people who would kill to get their hands on this power. I know, Elena said, her mind racing. But where can we hide something like this? Somewhere no one will think to look. Captain Roderick, who had been unusually quiet throughout the journey, spoke up. I know a place, a secret location, known only to a few. It's hidden from the world, and no one has ever found it. Elena felt a flicker of hope. If such a place existed, it might be their only chance to protect the artifact and keep its power from falling into the wrong hands. Chapter 13, The Betrayal. As they set sail toward the hidden location, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being followed. She kept a close watch on the horizon, her heart racing every time the Stormbreaker was overtaken by another ship. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink, Elena saw a dark ship in the distance, its sails black against the twilight sky. It was moving fast, and it was getting closer. "That's not good," Finn muttered, his hand instinctively going to the hilt of his sword. Before Elena could respond, the ship was upon them. The dark ship, with its black sails and ominous figurehead, pulled alongside the Stormbreaker, and a group of armed men boarded their vessel. Elena's heart skipped a beat as she saw who was leading the attackers. It was Alaric the Mapmaker. "I see you found the treasure," Alaric said, a twisted grin on his face. "I must admit, I didn't think you'd make it this far, but now, I'm afraid the treasure is mine." "Why?" Clara demanded, her voice filled with disbelief. "You knew what this artifact could do. Why would you want it?" Alaric's smile faded, and his eyes gleamed with malice. "Because power like this is meant to be controlled, not hidden away, and I'm the only one who can control it." Elena's hand tightened around the artifact. She had come too far to let it slip from her grasp now, but she knew that Alaric's betrayal was just the beginning of a far larger war over the treasure's power. Chapter 14, The Battle for the Artifact. The attack was swift and brutal. Alaric's men were skilled fighters, and the Stormbreaker's crew was caught off guard. Elena barely had time to react before the chaos erupted around her. She saw Finn fighting fiercely at her side, Clara battling one of the attackers, and Captain Roderick leading the defense with calm authority. But Alaric was a formidable opponent. He moved with purpose, his eyes locked on the artifact in Elena's hands. "Give it to me," he commanded, his voice low and dangerous. Elena shook her head. "You won't have it." Before she could react, Alaric lunged toward her, his hand outstretched. But just as his fingers brushed against the artifact, a blinding light erupted from it, throwing Alaric and his men back. The energy was overwhelming, and Elena felt as though the power of the artifact had come alive in her hands. The attackers were stunned, and Elena quickly ran toward the edge of the ship, trying to escape the battle. But as she reached the railing, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A second ship, even larger and more menacing than the first, appeared on the horizon. It was filled with soldiers and mercenaries, and their leader, a tall figure in dark armor, was unmistakable. Elena's heart sank. The battle for the artifact was far from over. Chapter 15: The True Power of the Deep. The battle raged on, but Elena knew they couldn't keep fighting forever. She needed to end this, to find a way to control the artifact's power before it consumed them all. As the dark ship drew closer, Elena realized the true nature of the artifact was becoming clearer to her. It wasn't just a key to ancient knowledge, it was the embodiment of the lost civilization's power. It had the potential to reshape the world, to destroy everything in its path, or to bring about a new era. But it was up to Elena to decide how to use it. As the two ships came within striking distance, Elena raised the artifact above her head, calling upon its power. The winds howled, the sea churned, and the skies darkened as the artifact's light blazed brighter than ever. The dark ship and its leader were consumed by the light, their ship disintegrating into nothingness. The crew on the Stormbreaker watched in awe and fear as the artifact's power reached its peak. "Is it over?" Finn asked, his voice shaking. Elena looked at the artifact, feeling its energy fading. "I don't know, but we've only just begun to understand what it can do." As the last of the dark ship's remains disappeared beneath the waves, Elena realized that the treasure was more than just a relic. It was a burden, a responsibility she could not ignore, and now the true journey was about to begin. Chapter 16: The Journey Continues. With the immediate threat behind them, the crew of the Stormbreaker set course for a safe haven, a place where they could regroup and figure out their next steps. But Elena knew that the artifact's power was not something they could keep hidden for long. There were others out there, people who would stop at nothing to claim it for themselves. As the Stormbreaker sailed into the horizon, Elena stood at the helm, the artifact tucked safely away. She had a long road ahead of her, and the challenges were far from over. But one thing was clear: the adventure was just beginning. Chapter 17: Secrets Unveiled. After weeks of sailing through uncertain waters, Elena and the crew arrived at the hidden sanctuary, a secluded island far from civilization. It was an ancient place, overgrown with thick trees and vines, but there was a quiet, almost mystical energy about it. Elena could sense that this was where the artifact truly belonged, far from the prying eyes of those who sought its power. In a cave deep within the island, Elena and the crew began to study the artifact in earnest. The symbols on its surface were no longer just random markings. They were starting to form a pattern. Elena worked tirelessly, day and night, deciphering the clues with the help of the map she had obtained during their earlier journey. One evening, As she sat alone in the cave with the artifact, a deep voice echoed in her mind. The key is not in the knowledge, but in the balance. Elena froze, her heart pounding. The voice was not from anyone she knew. It was as if the artifact itself had spoken to her. "What do you mean?" she thought, hoping for an answer. The voice was silent for a moment before responding. Only when the balance is restored will the true power be revealed. Elena didn't fully understand, but she knew this message was crucial. She had to figure out what the balance meant before the artifact's power could be unlocked completely. Chapter 18: A Dark History. As Elena and her crew delved deeper into the artifact's mystery, they discovered something that shocked them all. The lost civilization that created the artifact was not a peaceful society. It was a civilization built on war, power, and conquest. They had sought to control the forces of nature itself, using the artifact to manipulate the seas, the winds, and even time itself. But in their hubris, they had unleashed a terrible force, one that destroyed their world. The artifact had been hidden away, its power sealed until someone strong enough, someone like Elena, could unlock it. As Elena read through the ancient texts, she couldn't help but wonder if she was destined to repeat the mistakes of the past. The power to reshape the world was within her reach, but at what cost? "You're thinking too much, Elena," Clara said, snapping her out of her thoughts. "We can't change the past. We have to think about what comes next." Elena looked up at Clara, her eyes filled with doubt. But what if the next step is the wrong one? Clara gave her a reassuring smile. "You're not alone in this. We'll face whatever comes together." Chapter 19: A Fateful Visitor. Just as they began to make progress in deciphering the artifact's true power, a ship appeared on the horizon, much larger and more intimidating than any they had encountered before. Elena's heart sank as she recognized the emblem on the sails. It was a symbol of the Covenant of Shadows, a secret organization that had been hunting the artifact for centuries. "They've found us," Captain Roderick muttered grimly. Elena knew that if they didn't act quickly, the Covenant would take the artifact by force. She had to protect it, but she also knew the time for hiding was coming to an end. The world needed to know the truth about the artifact, and it was up to her to decide how to use its power for good or for destruction. Chapter 20: The Covenant's Pursuit. The crew prepared for battle as the Covenant's ship approached. Elena could feel the weight of the artifact's power growing stronger with each passing moment. She held it tightly, unsure whether to use it in the coming fight or to keep it hidden for a little longer. As the Covenant's men boarded the Stormbreaker, Elena and her crew fought valiantly, but it was clear that they were outnumbered and outmatched. The Covenant had come prepared, their warriors skilled in dark magic and forbidden techniques. In the heat of the battle, Elena found herself face to face with the leader of the Covenant, a tall, shadowy figure who wore a dark cloak and wielded a sword forged from black steel. "You cannot stop us, Elena," the leader said, his voice cold and calculating. "The artifact belongs to the Covenant. You are merely a pawn in a game you cannot understand." Elena raised the artifact, the light from it flickering with an intensity she had never felt before. She didn't know if she was ready to face the consequences of wielding its power, but she had no choice. "Then I will be the one to decide who controls its power," she declared, her voice unwavering. With that, she unleashed the artifact's energy, sending a wave of light crashing through the Covenant's forces. The leader of the Covenant stumbled backward, his dark magic powerless against the artifact's might. But as the light faded, Elena realized that the battle was far from over. The leader of the Covenant was still standing, a twisted grin on his face. "The power of the artifact is yours, for now," he said, his voice filled with disdain. "But mark my words, Elena, you have made a dangerous enemy." Chapter 21. The Choice. With the Covenant's forces defeated, the crew breathed a sigh of relief. But Elena knew that the true test was yet to come. The artifact's power had proven too strong to be hidden away for long. She had to make a choice. Her heart was heavy as she stood on the edge of the island, looking out over the ocean. The artifact posed in her hand, its light casting long shadows across the ground. "Will you use it?" Clara asked, her voice soft as she joined Elena at the shore. "I don't know," Elena admitted. "The power it holds, it could destroy everything if I'm not careful. But if I don't use it, the world will never know what could have been." "You've always been strong," Clara said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You'll find a way to use it wisely." Elena took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision settle in her chest. She had the power to change the world, but it was up to her to decide whether to be its savior or its downfall. Chapter 22. The Burden of Power. Elena spent days in deep contemplation, torn between using the artifact's power to reshape the world or hiding it away for good. The pull of its immense energy was constant, like an irresistible force urging her to make her choice. The crew respected her space, but their concern for her was palpable. They knew she was facing a decision that could change everything, not just for them, but for the entire world. "I can feel its pull," Elena said one evening as she sat by the campfire, the artifact resting beside her. "It calls to me, telling me that I can change the course of history. But what if I fail? What if I become like the people who caused the fall of their civilization?" Captain Roderick sat beside her, his face weathered and thoughtful. "We don't know what the future holds, Elena, but we do know one thing: you have a heart full of compassion. You'll make the right choice." Elena nodded, but the weight of the artifact was growing heavier with every passing day. She couldn't ignore its call much longer. It was time for a decision. Chapter 23: The Heart of the Artifact. In a secluded cave deep within the island, Elena stood alone with the artifact. The world around her was silent, save for the rhythmic sound of the waves crashing against the shore. She felt the artifact's energy surge through her, its power awakening as she lifted it high into the air. "What do you want from me?" Elena whispered, her voice trembling. "What am I supposed to do with this power?" The artifact responded with a flash of light, and suddenly, Elena was transported to another world, a vision of the past. She saw the ancient civilization, the people who had once wielded the artifact with pride. But she also saw the destruction they had caused, the pain they had inflicted upon their own world in their pursuit of power. The image faded, and Elena fell to her knees, breathless. She understood now. The artifact was not a tool of domination. It was a reminder, a warning of what could happen if power was misused. "I will not make the same mistakes," Elena vowed, clutching the artifact tightly. "I will use this power to heal, to bring balance, not destruction." Chapter 24: The Restoration. Elena returned to the crew, determined to put her plan into action. The artifact's power could heal the world, she realized, if used properly. It was not a weapon, but a force of nature, capable of restoring what had been lost. And that was exactly what she intended to do. Over the next few months, Elena and her crew traveled across the seas, using the artifact to heal the land, purify the waters, and restore balance to nature. Where once barren deserts had stretched for miles, lush forests and fertile fields began to grow. Villages that had been ravaged by war and famine flourished once again. The world began to heal, and with each passing day, Elena felt the weight of the artifact's power grow lighter. She had found the balance she had been seeking. She was not a ruler, but a guardian, a protector of the world's fragile harmony. Chapter 25. The Price of Peace. But with peace came new challenges. Not all were pleased with the changes Elena was bringing. A faction of powerful leaders who had once thrived on chaos and war now found their control slipping away. They saw Elena as a threat to their power and sought to take the artifact from her. One evening, as Elena and her crew sailed into a new port, a large fleet appeared on the horizon. The sails bore the emblem of a powerful warlord, one who had ruled over vast territories with an iron fist. He had come to take the artifact and with it, the future of the world. He had come to take the artifact and with it, the future of the world. We must fight, Captain Roderick said, his face grim. They won't leave us alone. But Elena knew that another battle, another war, was not the answer. She could not let history repeat itself. She had come so far to restore balance, and she would not allow the world to fall back into chaos. I won't fight, she said firmly. The artifact must not be used for destruction. Chapter 26. A Final Choice. The warlord and his army soon arrived, demanding that Elena hand over the artifact. Elena stood before them, her heart heavy with the knowledge that she was about to make the most difficult decision of her life. You don't understand, she said, her voice steady but filled with sorrow. This artifact does not belong to anyone. It is not a weapon to control, but a force to protect. The warlord sneered, raising his sword. You think you can stop me with words? This world belongs to the strong, not to those who hide behind ideals. Elena closed her eyes, and for a moment, she felt the artifact's power surge within her. She could feel the destruction it was capable of, but she also felt its capacity for healing. She knew what she had to do. With a deep breath, Elena placed the artifact into the center of the battlefield, its light blinding in its brilliance. She called upon its power, not to fight, but to protect. The ground trembled, and a wave of energy shot out, engulfing the warlord's forces. But Elena did not use the artifact to destroy them. Instead, the energy transformed into a barrier, trapping the warlord and his men in a peaceful stasis, rendering them unable to harm anyone. The power of the artifact is not meant for conquest, Elena said, her voice ringing out across the battlefield. It is meant for peace, and if you will not accept that, then you will remain here until you learn what true strength is. Chapter 27. A New Era. Elena stood on the shores of the island once more, watching the sunset as the world she had helped reshape stretched out before her. The artifact was no longer needed. Its power had been given freely to heal and protect, and now it was time for Elena to let go. With one final look at the artifact, Elena placed it back in the cave where it had once been hidden, its light fading as the earth around it grew still. The world was at peace, and Elena had become more than just a guardian of the artifact. She had become the guardian of hope, the hope that balance, love, and understanding could always prevail. As she turned away from the cave, Elena knew her journey was over. The world would continue to change, but it would be a change that came from within, from the hearts of those who chose peace. And so, the story of Elena and the artifact came to an end not with destruction, but with the dawn of a new era.
Subscribe to the channel and share this video if you found it valuable. Knowledge becomes more meaningful when it's shared.